Welcome back to Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio. Make sure you smash that thumbs up, Ebert and Roper style, with the fireworks on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video. Share the channel with your friends. Thank you so much, everyone, for getting us in our first week now. Over 200 subscribers. Heck of a start. Let's keep grinding. Let's keep rolling. And our biggest viewed video to date yesterday on Tuesday, but it's a hump day. It's Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. You can follow me on all social media at Jake Brown Radio. Tweet me. Make sure you hit the comments. We are reacting to all of your comments, so hit that comment button. And again, we appreciate your support. Let's get right to it. You know, we came in today like, I wonder what's going to be in the news. There's not much going on. And then, somewhat of a off-season bombshell. Now, it's not that big of a deal because it's just a check-in, but it's a little bit more of a check-in to the Holiday Inn or a check-in to, the Ramada Inn, or maybe it's a stop at the Red Roof Inn. But if it were to happen, it would be a stop at the Ritz-Carlton. And that's the Mets checking in, reportedly, according to Andy Martino, on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's a topic I've spoke about on my shows, on my TikToks, all off season. The Mets have to be big fish hunting. If they want to compete, if they want to beat the almighty Dodgers, who have an Avengers super team in Los Angeles, they got to be thinking a little bit bigger than Pete Alonso. And, the latest report is that the Mets are holding the line with Alonso, and Steve Cohen fully supports David Stern's approach because Cohen, they all see there's no bidding on Alonso. Nobody is in the market for him. So why are the Mets outbidding themselves? So as much as the fans want this thing to get done, and I want it to get done, we all want it to just get done, why outbid yourself? Why pay a supreme price and put yourself out of position to get other first basemen in years down the road? So why not think about Vladdy? Why not tell Pete Alonso's camp and Boris and say, hey, we can go get someone else. That's fine with us. That's going to leave you either with nobody or the one-year deal and irrelevancy in someone like the Angels. So the Mets have all the leverage in the world here. I think Stearns is doing a good job. And I think you really got to consider Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, let's look at Vladdy. Let's break down the numbers here. First off, Vladdy, a $28.5 million contract, obviously arbitration, and then he becomes a free agent in the offseason. He'll be 26 in March. Pete is a free agent seeking around $30 million a year, reportedly. He's 30 years old. He'll be 31 in December. There's a 4-year age gap there, and I threw this note in there because a lot of people don't realize this because they say they're similar defensively or Pete is better. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won a Gold Glove in 2022 with the Toronto Blue Jays, so he is a Gold Glove winner. Take with that what you will, and he has also played over 100 games in his career at third base, so he won't be a third baseman if he was a Met, obviously. But you have to factor in, hey, there is a little bit of position flexibility. If you need it in a pinch or there was an injury, a guy to play third, Vladdy has done it before. I'm not saying he's a Gold Glover at third, but he's done it. Pete is a first baseman or DH. That's it. He doesn't really do much else for you. Now, I broke down the stats here based on the last 4 years because 2019, Vladdy wasn't there the whole year. He didn't get called up on opening day. In 2020, we throw out the window because that's a 60-game season. So this is based on the last 4 years. You look at the average in OBP, Vladdy is better in both, and Pete has notoriously not been a great average or OBP guy. Now, it's not light years better, but over the last 4 years, the average is 40, do the math there, 46 points higher, and the OBP is 35 points higher. So Vladdy is better significantly in a decent amount, an average in OBP. The homer and RBIs, obviously, favored Alonso. Alonso's done better in that category, but last year having the worst year of his career thus far in that category with 34 and 88. Vladdy last year with 30 and 103. And I think the age is important to factor in there. 4 years older being Pete, Vladdy hasn't really got to the age mark where Pete put up these numbers. So this is going to be a telling year for Vladdy, whether it's in Toronto or maybe if it's with the Mets. And then the games miss is very similar, but, a lot of people tout Pete for playing every day. He does a great job doing that. Vladdy's the same. Vladdy, in fact, in the last 4 years has missed 8 less games. Now, that's the least significant of those. These guys both clearly play every day and are durable, and that's why this is more of a debate. And then the bottom number, I think, is a big reason the Mets are thinking Vladdy. A big reason they're not going to overcommit to spending for Pete Alonso. Vladdy puts the ball in play more. Look at those strikeout numbers over the 4 years. 578 versus 422. When you're thinking about a lineup where Vladdy's going to be surrounded by Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Nimmo, guys who are good hitters, you're thinking about the guys around him and how is Vladdy going to table set? How is he going to do well for the guy in front of him and the guy behind him? Because if you got two guys on and you're striking out, you're not really making productive outs. The Mets are starting to think, hey, we'd love a hitter that could, if he's going to get out, be productive. And Pete, as his strikeout numbers have gotten worse to the point, Pete Alonso had 172 strikeouts, the most in his career since 2019 in 2024. So his strikeout numbers are not great. To be honest, guys, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the better player. There's not really an argument here. You can argue for Pete and a lifetime Met and the career records, but Stearns and this front office don't care about that. The better player and the guy in the prime of his career is Vladimir Guerrero. There's no question about it, and it's not really up for debate. Now, here's the thing. What will it cost you? Because obviously you would have to make a trade. The Blue Jays have said the first day of spring training is their deadline to potentially get extension done with Vladdy. If not, they either keep him, they trade him, or maybe they wait till the trade deadline to trade him. If they don't get an extension done, I don't know why the Blue Jays would not be fielding calls from whoever to try and get a package for him. Now, here's the thing. I'm not in the package of trading the entire farm system for Vladdy for 1 year. I do think if you can get a trade done that makes sense for both, where the Mets aren't stripping themselves of all their top prospects, you got to consider it. Look what the Mets did for Francisco Lindor. They, didn't give away too much, but at the time, Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez were regarded pretty highly in that organization. They moved on from them, and it's one of the great trades in franchise history. Look at Francisco Lindor now, essentially the captain and the face of the franchise. So you got to think about a deal like this. It's worth brainstorming. It's worth calling the Blue Jays and checking in. And on the Pete Alonso front, you're betting with yourself. Like, I think, again, a deal will get done eventually, but there's no question the Mets have Vladdy on their mind. Like I've said on here, Steve Cohen's first tweet was about ticket sales when they got Juan Soto. We were 18th in attendance. Where do you think we'll be this year? He knows what Vladdy would bring, and in the long term, obviously a free agent, you'd have to sign him, probably start around 10 years, 400 is my guess, but the Mets aren't going to be able to do both. They both play the same position. Everyone's like first base, DH. They're not going to pay a first baseman and DH combined $75 million or $70 million. I just don't see them doing that. But, man, Vladdy coming year 2026 with the soccer stadium 2027 and the metropolis they're trying to build around there. You talk about a team that could maybe compete with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Vladdy in that lineup is what I look at to compete with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't look at Pete as making the Mets that much better. It's been fun with him. It's been great. He's been a tremendous Met. But this, I didn't really want him back since day one of this offseason. And I think this whole process and Boris and, everything that's gone on financially has turned me away more from him. So I'm talking for Vladdy. And if not, get yourself a stopgap first baseman for a year and then go pay Vladdy next winter. I do think there's a good chance Vladdy at some point ends up a New York Met. And, I think you got to trust David Stearns on this. I'm seeing a lot of disrespect for David Stearns online. And Twitter, obviously, anyone says anything. I'm not going to, put faith in what a lot of people say on Twitter. But Sleepy Stearns, and he hasn't made a move since Soto. Do people forget that the Mets were just 2 wins away from the World Series with a team that really had no business being there? So as much as people want to criticize the starting pitching and what he's done, they haven't done anything since Soto. Everyone criticized him for Manaea, for Severino, for every move they made last year. And look how good that rotation was. Now, Peterson's probably not going to have the same year, but Peterson was a godsend. Manaea was a godsend, and they did it without Senga. So everyone talks about he hasn't done much. He's very good at addressing the depth pieces. He addressed back-end kind of players that, maybe you don't know that much, but that's what he does. He just did it now, right before we recorded it. Austin Warren, reliever they claimed off waivers from the Giants, who allowed 2 runs in 10 2/3 last season. So those depth pieces he's good at addressing, and I just don't get the disrespect that he gets, considering in 1 year he almost took the Mets to win a pennant. So I'm excited for what he'll bring, and I trust Stearns a lot more than some random folks on Twitter. So for all the people hating on Stearns, let him cook, give him a chance. And remember this, there are tons of free agents still on the board. I think a lot of people assume all the names. There's still a lot of names out there. It's not just the Mets and Soto that have not done much. By the way, getting a generational hitter in Juan Soto. It's a lot of teams who have been very quiet in the last month. So just trust Stearns and believe that he'll get the job done. I trusted Stearns to go out and get the number 2 ranked international free agent, and that's Elian Pena, who the Mets have signed to a $5 million deal. And, Joe DeMayo talks about it on Twitter, and shout out to our buddy Joe. The Mets signed him for $5 million. This is the largest international free agent bonus in franchise history and the largest for a Latin American player in this period. He's ranked the number 2 prospect in this international class, behind, obviously, Roki Sasaki, who we expect probably goes to the Dodgers. And evaluators believe he has a legitimate 5-tool impact. This kid is 17. He's a shortstop, but probably he's going to play a different infield position. And he's just 17, so we're not going to see him if ever, and hopefully at some point, for a couple of years in the big leagues at the very least, probably 3 or 4 years. But, man, to get him this young and have him develop under your umbrella and being ranked this highly and touted this highly, this is a nice signing by the Mets. And, you start thinking about the infield pieces, what this team could look like, and you're thinking Pena and Lindor and Mauricio and Acuna and Ryan Clifford. And that's why, it scares some of us to try and trade for Vladdy, because you're probably going to part with a few of those guys. But if you don't and you sign in free agency, man, you start to think about a bright Mets future ahead. And I trust Stearns. I trust this front office. I trust Steve Cohen. And I love that Cohen is leaving it to Stearns, because I think in past regimes, they might step in here and say, just sign Pete, give him what he wants. And I don't think that's the smart move for a player that you see from the stats is not aging that well and is not in his prime like Vladdy is. So there will always be options out there. Everyone says, what if we don't get Pete? We have no option. The Mets will find an option. If it's trading for someone, if it's signing, bottom tier guy, if it's moving someone over and getting someone else, if it's signing Profar, there will be a move to be had as a stopgap first baseman if they don't trade for Vladdy. But think big picture, think championships, think Vladdy. So we'll see. Again, I still think Soto gets done. Alonso gets done at some point. But let's see what happens here. It's time to big fish hunt. And I want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as a New York Met. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you want Vladdy? You want Pete? Do you want both? What do you want him to do? We'll be answering your comments. You can tweet me at Jake Brown Radio. Make sure, again, you smash that thumbs up on YouTube. We appreciate the thumbs up. It helps. The shares, we're over 200 subscribers now. Keep on subscribing. Keep on sharing. We appreciate your support. And again, we'll be back tomorrow on Thursday, January 16th. I'm off to Knicks Sixers in Philly now. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Mets. And thanks for watching Mets Daily, everybody. Jake Brown Radio. Check it out.